Hey folks, Julian back here again. We're doing another top 10 books to subscribe to. So we're looking at books that are releasing in April of 2022, part of the February 2022 solicitations. So we've already looked over 5 independent titles. So we looked at a book from Image, from Lunar, from Dynamite, from Boom Studios, um, probably someone else I'm forgetting. In any event, so now we're going to look over 5 superhero type titles. So 3 from Marvel, 2 from DC. They're not really surprising titles to recommend, in all honesty. Well, actually the first one I had a hard time choosing. So we'll look over 5 titles, and at the end of this, we'll go over the obligatory trade paperback that I recommend picking up this month. First up is the surprising title. So there are 3 new X titles coming out in April. There is Legion of X, which is the follow-up to Way of X. There's X-Men Red, which is the follow-up to Sword. And Excalibur is being followed up by Knights of X. And I recommend this one in particular because while it is a mutant-based story, it's the only one that actually doesn't take place within the realm of the whole Krakoa and the whole political discourse around that. So the Knights of X, as I mentioned, is the follow up of Betsy Braddock's Excalibur, are now stuck in Otherworld, which is in this version of the Marvel Universe, Merlin is a crazed man and is poised to destroy all mutants. And so the knights are stuck in Otherworld trying to both defend themselves and rescue all other mutants that are in Otherworld. So it is it's the fantasy element that is from the Marvel universe, the Marvel comic universe. It doesn't. Shouldn't have access to all the other Krakoan technology and help from the rest of the mutants. These people are stuck alone in Otherworld. So in Otherworld is the universe in which there's magic and sorcery that's happening. It is not limbo; it is its own thing. There is a sorcerer supreme in Otherworld, which I believe is Merlin actually. So the Knights of X is probably the perfect book for those who are looking to mix both fantasy and mutants and the X-Men together without needing a huge amount of backstory, honestly. So yes, there were like 28 issues of Excalibur, but it is the same team working on what's Teeny Howard is still continuing her story, but now she doesn't need to have to play with everybody else in the X universe. Anyways, for now. But this might just be the perfect X book that doesn't require knowledge of everything else to enjoy. All you need to do is bang. It's Camelot, King Arthur, Evil Merlin, and some mutants trying to survive. So, Knights of X coming out this April. Next up, after 10 years, Jeff Johns returns to the Flashpoint universe. This is a 7-book miniseries. It starts with a 0 and goes up to 6. And so Flashpoint Beyond begins anew. This is a Thomas Wayne, the Flashpoint Batman-based story. So all 7 issues are mostly focused on him, and I believe it's based on some kind of murder, if I'm not mistaken. And so it is, but it is set within that elsewhere universe itself. So if you really enjoy Flashpoint as a either from the Flash TV show or expected, well, they're most likely going to be doing it with the Flash movie as well, or read the amazing comic book story that happened 10 years ago with Barry Allen. Flashpoint Beyond might just be the perfect book for you. The last things that a lot of people really enjoyed from Jeff Johns over at DC was Doomsday Clock. Well, that took forever to release. A lot of people, actually, it's one of our better trade paperback sellers. So, in all honesty, if you, like myself, are a huge fan of Thomas Wayne, the Batman, and then looking towards what happens to the continuation of the Flashpoint universe, this is the perfect miniseries to jump on in. More from Marvel. Not really surprising. The Spider-Man guy is going to recommend Amazing Spider-Man #1. Yes, I mentioned before a few times that it's kind of frustrating that we're rebooting the numbering again. We're on volume, I don't know, volume something, volume 6, volume 5. I'm not exactly certain, but we're going back to number 1. The other thing, I believe the new writer is Zeb Wells on the title. Is going to be the main writer. It's not just a conglomerate of writers, just like the Spider-Man Beyond story arc in the previous volume was. So this is a one-man team who's going to be writing books. The first month has 2 issues, so I don't know if it's going to be a bi-monthly book or is particularly this month has 2 issues. What will sell this book, in all honesty, is the return of John Romita Jr. doing interiors of Spider-Man, and this is it's been at least a decade since the last time that Romita has done interior pages. So that is honestly the reason people will be picking this up. Now, I don't expect Romita to stay on for 75 issues, but I do expect him to stay on at least to 25. So you've got about a year to 2 years worth of John Romita Jr. Drawing amazing art for Amazing Spider-Man. So that is the reason why I highly recommend picking up Amazing Spider-Man #1 when it comes out this April. Next up, we've got someone else who's back from for work for hire work. James Tynion had given up everything, did not renew his contract with DC, started doing comic books on his Substack, and then they offered him keys to the castle, the one thing that would bring him back, and that is the Sandman universe. So they're giving him a brand new series to write, and is the Sandman universe and Nightmare Country. So one thing that he absolutely adores from the Sandman universe, from Neil Gaiman's work, is that it is both psychedelic and there's a horror aspect. And so James Tynion, the horror master himself, the comic book horror master himself, is now going to bring in 2 new villains or 2 new horror-based characters into the Sandman universe. So Nightmare Country just may be the perfect jumping on point to the Sandman series of books. Obviously, Sandman, if I'm not mistaken, I believe I have all the hardcovers in store, or I need to restock them. They are perennial sellers. It is some of Neil Gaiman's greatest works and some of the greatest comic book works of all time. And so the Horror Master bringing in his touch into the Sandman universe there's a high likelihood that this is going to be bunkers. So if you enjoyed the last thing from Tynion has been Nice House on a Lake, and that was also bunkers, you will need to pick up the Sandman universe in Nightmare Country, starting with #1. And then last up from Marvel, this is really something that's awesome, in my opinion. This is Captain America 0. And so Captain America 0 is a new jumping on for actually 2 ongoing series of Captain America. This is a one-shot that for both Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson working together for one story. I'm bringing up the Mark Brooks wraparound cover as the cover. I am not 100% certain if this is the main cover. There are 2 Alex Ross covers, one Sam Wilson, one Steve Rogers, and we're not sure which one is actually the main cover. Everything is written as variant, if I'm not mistaken. But the Mark Brooks cover is the one to pick up because Mark Brooks art is awesome. So, and he's been doing a lot of wraparound covers, like Immortal X-Men as well as from last month. So, in this particular story, you've got a jumping on point to a new ongoings for, like I said, Sam and Steve, and then both characters will split off into each one their own ongoing series. So you'll have Sam Wilson, the Avenger, the modern superhero fighting with the Avengers and defending defending Earth against all villains. And then you'll have Steve Rogers, the underground subterfuge, Shield-esque storyline based character who will defend also the population of Earth, but from the threats that no one else can handle. So you'll probably have Winter Soldier will Steve, and then the upcoming the more outgoing Black Panther-esque stories with Sam Wilson. So as a jumping on point in number 0, it looks fantastic. The writers Jackson and Cullen, who wrote Kang the Conqueror, the first 3 issues were fantastic. Then the last 2 I had a little bit issues with, but they're writing right now, if I'm not mistaken, Captain America and Iron Man, and that is just blew me away. I didn't know where the story was going with number 1, but number 2 and number 3 is like, oh, now I understand this story. And so these guys, there's 2 sets of writers. So Tochi Onyebuchi, and will be probably writing the Sam Wilson book, and then Jackson and Colin will be writing the Steve Rogers book. So I'll be picking up both at the same time. I'm really excited to see how they differ. I believe the intrigue element is where more my taste will go. So I'm most likely will more enjoy the Captain America title, the Steve Rogers title and the Sam Wilson title, but nevertheless, I'm sure there's going to be crisscross in each one's of their adventures, like, oh no, if he does this will all ruin everything we've been working towards. That is what I'm expecting out of these 2 titles. So, Captain America number 0 coming out this April. So that's 5 more superhero books that we looked over this month for coming out in April of 2022. As always, I want to mention one trade paperback that I would really recommend. I know that I have said so many times that I cannot stand Steve Orlando, and I think he is not good. But I had no idea that in 2015, he wrote one of my favorite series of all time, the 12-issue series of The Midnighter. This was a high-octane, high-impact title in the Wildstorm universe. One of the very last titles that DC had done as an ongoing series for Wildstorm, and Midnighter is one of my favorite characters. He is a Daredevil mixed with Batman, and also more not deadly. Well, yes, deadly, yes, but also without remorse. So Midnighter is one of my, again, favorite character, and really enjoyed him and almost everything. And it seems that Steve Orlando wrote him. So like, all right. So highly recommend if you're looking for something, someone to bash some skulls in. Midnighter is your guy. So that is my recommendation for a trade paperback this month. If there's anything, if you feel there's a book that we missed this month, or you're really excited about a different X title or some other book in general, please let us know down below in the comments. Otherwise, if you feel that there are books that you need to recommend to other people, and this is a perfect video for them to do so, share them this video and give us a like, and we'd really appreciate it. Anyways, we'll be back real soon with more videos from BD Cosmos about comic books. And anyways, have yourselves a wonderful time, and we'll see each other real soon. Bye for now.